Okay. All right. Good morning or good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ida Rockledge. I am the co-director for the Louisville Lexington City Center. I'm going to go ahead and give a little brief introduction for Chris Birkenthal. She is our instructor for today's webinar. Chris earned her certification last century, but is still teaching the merits of taking this professional exam today. Chris teaches at the University of Kentucky in the School of Interiors now for 4 years. Prior to that, she was an assistant professor at Rochester Institute of Technology and also taught at Harrington College of Design in Chicago. Her other credentials include professional membership in IIDA since its inception and prior in IBD. She earned her certified kitchen and bath designer credential in 2006 and her lead GA in 2011. She graduated with her master's from Savannah College of Art and Design. She has served as a proctor and judge for the NCIDQ over the years. So I'm going to let Chris take over, and we definitely thank you for taking the time today to attend our webinar, and thanks to Chris for agreeing to be our teacher today.
Well, thank you, Ida. Appreciate it. It looks like we're now at 15 people out of 151 maximum. Hopefully there would be 151, but it would be great to have that many people signing up. But this is a hard test, and some people get a little nervous about it. So hopefully I can put your fears at ease here today. Ultimately, the goal here is to have you an overview of how to go about doing this. Some of you may have started this process already. Some of you may be perhaps even halfway through. There are some ins and outs, and part of any profession is trying to make sure that it's not so easy to be that professional. It takes a little effort and time and some money, of course. So anyway, I appreciate everyone being here today, and we're going to give you an overview. This is a slideshow from the NCIDQ people. I've added a few in here as well. Some new things have cropped up even since this has been written, which was just recently. First, we'll just go ahead, and this is me. So you have a vision of me. This is me in my office at University of Kentucky. I usually am peering down my nose at people because I can't see without my glasses. So anyway, as you see, my number for NCIDQ was pretty darn low. That's when the pass rate was 38%, and it was before my first child was born. I basically said I couldn't have a child until I passed the test. So that being said, we're going to get going here. So obviously, why is this important to you? I know why it was important to me. The slide is gold because it's the gold standard in credentials, and no other ID credential really assesses the health, safety, and welfare knowledge. And as you may know, health, safety, and welfare, I can't see, talk all of a sudden. Health, safety, and welfare is the sticking point for any profession. To be a professional that is state recognized, you have to have some sort of connection to the health, safety, or welfare of your constituents. So obviously, NCIDQ, the distinguisher from the crowd, demonstrating the specific competencies, and it's obviously supported by verified work experience and a college degree. This provides us the opportunity to shine above a decorator. It is the requirement for professional registration and licensure and certification in all ID regulated jurisdictions, both the United States and Canada, with the exception of California. So if anyone, I don't think anyone here is calling from California. So they have they have their own test. It's very much along the NCIDQ line, though. Interesting enough, many firms these days actually require this to be put in place finally for your promotion in the firm, and it represents your inclusion with another 30,000 people, which is kind of an exclusive group if you think about it. I think the latest Bureau of Labor Statistics I've seen recently, there were close to 80,000 interior designers in the United States, and so this is 30,000. So there's quite a few of us out there, but it's still an exclusive group in the sense that there's only about 1,000 people a year passing this. So that's the good news. We actually have been increasing our numbers recently. You see in this bar chart here, we have a number of people taking in 2014, but it's certainly gone up a lot since 2018 time. 17% in fact. I think this might actually have to do with the fact that you no longer have to hand draft. I think that's a really good thing. Talk more about that in a minute. So what do you need to know? Obviously, there's some exam information I'm going to give you right now. Some tips, deadlines, dates, and fees. It's not a cheap test, I'm sorry to tell you, but nothing is in life. What's the process? The scoring of the exam, and of course, what do you do with your certification other than celebrate really loud and long? I've had a number of students recently who have passed it, and I've been seeing them on Facebook, and I'm like the proud mama. I'm very happy for them. They've all been passing. I've had 3 or 4 of them in the last week. So that's pretty exciting. Okay, so something has changed recently, and I want you to be aware of this. Over the years, every time they re-look at the exam, they certainly go through the questions, but they also go through the past eligibility. And so some people will say, and I'm one of those people, I came out with an associate degree years and years ago before master's degrees were invented, I think. And so I had to do some extra work on my part. So if you can see on this slide here, ultimately the changes have been where you have a bachelor's or master's degree, CETA or non-CETA. CETA does not accredit master's degree, so I think that's one of the changes. And you need to have those 2 years of full-time experience before you could go on to take your PX or Practicum test. Now, just so you know, if you have just gotten out of college within the last year, you can take the IDFX earlier on, right after college, which is very different than it used to be. You would have to go through the entire work hours before you could take it. So now, of course, there's a bachelor's or master's other major degree, plus an interior design degree. For those people who perhaps got something like accounting and they came back, that is still $35.20, which is about 2 years of full-time work. And then the associate degree or certificate, you have to now have 5280 work hours, which is 3 full years. And just so you know, these hours must be under the direct supervision of someone who has been sponsoring you, and that's something a little different as well. So we'll go look at that in a minute. Architects actually now used to be where they could be under the interior design umbrella, and now it looks like they have changed it over to a few more work hours. Sorry about this being a little blurry. I cut and pasted from the website this morning. So a direct sponsor, someone who is sponsoring you and verifying your work credentials. Yes, you do need to have that paperwork resolved. So that would be a Q certified designer or someone who is licensed, registered, or certified in the U.S. or Canada, or an architect that is U.S. or Canada. So we can consider those as a direct supervisor. Sponsor is typically the same thing, but we basically are reviewing that professional progress to affirm those hours. Qualified work experience requirements, we need to have a certain number under direct supervision. And just want to let you know, this is all on the website now. And you can also go back and pick that up. I thought I put the website on here, perhaps I didn't. Ultimately, anyway, this is all on the website, and I'll show you that website link in a moment. You can get your cut and paste ready for you there. So you can, one of the things that's really nice is that you can do some of the meetings with your direct supervisor. You can't just do email. You have to do it with some sort of video chat or in person. So ultimately, there's some of that information there. Again, you need to have, this is the type of work that they are watching over you for, the typical process that we go through in an interior design project. So the exam basics, so many moons ago, this used to be a two-day test. You started at noon, you finished at 5 on Friday, and then you started at 8 a.m., and you finished whenever, I think it was 5 p.m. And so it was an awfully long time to be hunched over a drafting board, but thank goodness it's no longer that. So the fundamentals, the FX, which is something you can take right out of college, that's 3 hours. You have 3 hours to do it, 100 questions. Your PX, which is after a few years of experience, you have 4 hours, but of course, there's a few more questions there. And then the practicum, now that's the exciting thing for you all. The hot spot drag in place, fill in the blank, and multiple choice. Just so you know, this was a drafting test years ago, up until just last year. And I'll tell you, being a judge of that was not a lot of fun. The good news is we never judged you on your drafting skills, and so that was taken into consideration when they changed it. They also changed it to be in line with the architect's exam, which also went to this process a couple of years back. You have 4 hours to basically to fill in the blanks, multiple choice. You'll see a set of plans. You'll see things you can do. And the good news is also on the website, you can do a practicum sample. It doesn't cost that much, and it's about $12. It is well worth those $12. So again, passing rate. This has been a little bit of a switch over the years, but it's still a pretty good target here, I think. And so if you think about it from that standpoint, we always want to understand how those people perform on these various rates. Ultimately, it's not an easy test, but it's obviously very attainable since people have been passing it. Now, this is, if you look at the top right, there's a NCIDQ study guide link up there. I would definitely become familiar with that link. I would, don't go to it right now because you'll switch me off, but make sure you cut and paste that one. This is what you'll see when you come up to that. And each one of these has a link to information about those contents. We're going to review a few of these right now. Good news about this, I want to let you know, is building codes. Yes, you do need to know building codes. And the problem is there's building codes in each jurisdiction, obviously. So the NCIDQ compiled them, and they use these codes, which you'll see on that link right there. Ultimately, use those codes when you do it. Now, sometimes it might differ than what your jurisdiction might have or what you may know. Put that aside in your head and remember to use the building code exam information from the queue that they give you. It's very short and sweet. So the exam reference list, however, is really not short. It's 6 pages long, and I didn't count up how many books, but there's a lot of them. So, but the best part is that list is telling you everything you need to know. I do believe that the University of Kentucky's design library has almost all of them. I'm not sure about University of Louisville or Western Kentucky University, but if you were an alum from any of those universities, I would send that list to your professors and ask them if they could double check in their design library. There's an awful lot of them, so you know you're not going to need to read every page of every book, but you certainly need to know some of those things. Also on that page, you can see some practice quizzes. These I would definitely suggest you take. I had my students actually take these. The IDFX quiz 1 and 2, now there is a cost involved. It goes through Prometric. It's $55. I do want to caution you, If it times out or disconnects on you, which it did on me and my students this fall, you need to take a screenshot of that saying where it glitched and send it to Prometric and copy NCIDQ on that so you could get your money back, something I have to do later today. So anyway, so hopefully you understand that this is a very vital page. Please look at it, go through it, feel comfortable with it, read everything on that page. So this is a book list. I can send you a PDF if you want to send me an email, or you can go to that page that I just showed you. This is just the AB part. There's so many more to review, and perhaps you don't remember any of those from college. I will say there's quite a few that are newer there, and again, this is where people start panicking. I want you to understand that if you've been practicing for at least a year, you're probably not going to have too many problems because you've somehow touched base on almost all of these things during the course of the last year or two. Okay, so the blueprint for the fundamental, basically there's about 10% that is on the design communication side. And then as you can see, the pie chart goes around the corner like that. 15% for programming and site analysis, 10% for human behavior and designed environment. Building systems is kind of large, so bone up on that. If you're not familiar with those, get familiar with those. And then, of course, furniture and finishes are equally large, including lighting. I don't know if they make you do lighting calculations anymore. I haven't taken the test recently. Construction drawing and specs, and then, of course, technical drawings, conventions. Those are on the FX, and again, that's 100 questions. The PX gets a little bit more in-depth into the professional and the business practice world and project communication, and also codes, quite a lot on codes, actually. Building systems integration, product and manufacturers or materials coordination, the connections to specifications, obviously, to contract documents and contract administration. So those are the things that are going to be on the PX, and again, that's something in about 2 years if you've just graduated or if you have not taken the FX. You cannot take the PX or the Practicum unless you've taken the FX. If you are ready and eligible to take the entire slew of tests at once, I would actually recommend not doing that. I would take the FX first to get yourself in the mood, and then come back and do the PX and the Practicum later. The Practicum, obviously, is, again, much more in-depth to the programming of life and contract documents, building systems integration, and site analysis. So recent news, obviously, we talked about this already. It's computerized. Hallelujah. Hotspot, fill in the blank, multiple choice, drag and place questions. And I say hallelujah because I took this test when it was not, and I will tell you, I took it on a Saturday. On a Monday, I still couldn't move. My back hurt like a son of a you-know-what. And thank God my boss was really kind to me and just let me play in the materials instead of doing any drafting that day. Yes, that's when I drafted, before computers. Yes, that's how old I am. So anyway, exam blueprint, contract documents. So if we think about it, what does that mean? What's really in that exactly? What do we mean when we talk about exam documents or contract documents? Okay, so the ability to develop and analyze the floor plan, the finished plan, the furniture plan, preliminary elevations, sections, details, code requirements, reflected ceiling plan, and the schedules, and then PWDWP, I used to call it ACP, I think, or anyway, power data and communications. And so those are all things that you need to know on contract documents. Again, it is no longer software specific, and it's 120 total questions. It is quite long, and there are 3 separate case studies, which I think is really useful as opposed to what it used to be, which was a multi-story, multi-purpose building. So I'm going to try to make sure this comes up, and I'm going to make sure the speaker gets loud enough here. There is a little demo on if for some reason this doesn't work, you can go to NCIDQ Practicum and hear a little bit more.
Hello. Please watch this short demonstration on how the key features of Prac 2.0 function. This includes design case studies, exhibits, and question types. Every question for Prac 2.0 is linked to a case study. Each case study includes 5 tabs with the design programming, a floor plan, universal NCIDQ exam codes, the lighting specifications, and if needed, imperial or metric conversion equations. A candidate must use the resources provided in the case studies to answer certain questions on the exam. Some questions test your ability to synthesize the different information provided in order to give an appropriate solution. For efficiency, a candidate is able to search for a keyword within the resources or adjust the fit of the different resources within the case study. You are also able to move the whole case study to a different location on the screen if desired. For each tab of the case study, be sure to scroll to the end to ensure that nothing is missed. There are 4 different types of questions that might be used for Prac 2.0. They are called drag and place, hotspot, fill in the blank, and the traditional multiple choice. We will demonstrate the first 3, drag and place, hotspot, and fill in the blank, now. Starting with drag and place. Here you'll be asked to select a symbol, label, or dimension from the box on the left by clicking, hold to move it into the question, and release to place. For these types of questions, be as specific as possible in your placement of the label. Double check your answer before moving on. Or, if you choose not to use that item, you are able to put it back. In some cases, you will be required to rotate a symbol in order to answer a question correctly. To do so, right-click on the symbol, input the amount of degrees you wish to rotate, and select Apply. To move on to the next question, select Next, the bottom right-hand side. The next question type is called hotspot. In these types of questions, you'll be asked to place a target on a specific location within the question. Once you determine the location, click to drop the target. You are able to move it again if you are not yet satisfied with your answer. Once you are, you'll move on to the next question. And the last question type is fill in the blank. In this case, you'll be asked to provide a numerical response. Provide only a number when answering these questions. Words or symbols will not be accepted. In some instances, an exhibit will be attached to a question. The exhibit might be necessary in answering the question correctly, so be sure you open it. Like the case study, you'll be able to move and enlarge the display. Once you complete all the questions on the case study, you will be given an opportunity to review. You're able to review questions that are incomplete, ones that you marked for review, or all if you prefer. But be sure to keep an eye on the time. The timer is located on the top right-hand corner of your exam. And those are the key features of the Prac 2.0 exam format. Good luck.
Okay, good luck to you all, definitely. Okay, let's move on. Hopefully we'll take questions at the end. So if you have questions about that, okay, let it go. I want my computer to get the next thing. There it is. Okay, so we'll take questions at the end via either chat or writing. Okay, so the dates and the deadlines. If you are ready to do this in the spring, we think about this when, basically we're going to be sucked in for the winter. You got till the 15th of January to get the application in. And then obviously they take some time to review your application. You do have to send in a number of documents, things like your transcripts and your work verification. So they take some time to review those, and they'll let you know that you can register, that you're okay to take the test. You go ahead and register from the 3rd of January to the 31st of March. And then you will register with Prometric and take the exam in the month of April. I think this has been great because they've now extended it. You do need to go to a Prometric testing center, and I will say those are probably almost in every city in Kentucky and the Ohio area. So Prometric, as once you get through that registration, they'll give you a list of local places to take this test. Prometric does tests for many, many professionals. So the fall exam calendar, very similar timelines. These are the same timelines that are used for each year. And so you've got through January to July to get those applications in. They review them through the 15th of August, and then you can schedule and you would take the test next October. And then we'll all celebrate that you've passed them around Christmas time next year. Not cheap, but well worth it. All three sections to the application process, that's $225. If you just want to take the fundamentals, that's $95. If you are a recent student, many of your professors can get you a discount coupon on that. And the registration is a little bit more expensive, but again, these are way lower than many other professional fees. So I know that seems a little high, but it's really not. So the application fee, as it's explained, that's the fee paid to submit your application for review, and then the registration fee is paid to register, that is, purchase the exam, and then paying this fee allows for an approved applicant to book an exam, and those are valid for only that exam, so don't do it until you're ready. And approved applicants may register for an exam either in October or April. You should not go ahead and take that unless you're ready. If you've already registered for an exam and you need to defer it, there is a fee. And unfortunately, there is canceled exams or unscheduled or full forfeiture of the registration fee. So if we think about the applying for the fundamentals, again, post-graduation, final year of students program, and then obviously you need to have some qualified work experience to do the FX or the PX and the practicum. You can take all three at once. I don't necessarily think it's a great idea. I've done it myself. It's painful, but I think it's a little less painful than it used to be. So we've talked about this a little while ago, specific education and work experience requirements. Recognize that those things have changed. We reviewed that a little while ago. There is that link for you to review it as well. Hey, so I have heard, this is pretty exciting as opposed to worrying about this all the month of October and November. They have actually started to give you a preliminary score via email right after, just like your lead examination. It's great. It makes you either worry more or worry less, one or the other. But you have to have an updated and approved account, so go ahead and make sure you do that as well. And then you will get the final exam scores right after that, right about now, this week in December, as I've heard a lot from a lot of people. You do need to have a specific score. It's all three are examined on an 800-point scale. I don't remember my scale years ago. 500 is the passing point. You can see that each instance a candidate receives feedback on each section of the exam so they can assess their relative performance. I think this has been a great thing because it really tells you where you need to, if you don't pass, you know you need to work on those things, and so find those books that will help you work on those. Obviously, you also need to get your CIDQ account set up at some point. It's easy to pretty much navigate through those tabs. I looked at myself. Brenna just sending me a question. Would you type? It flashed and went away, so I didn't see it fast enough. What would be a passing score for which portion? It says to me that it is a all of them. It's 500 out of 800. Let's go back to that for a second. I want to just double check something. I don't recall exactly. It was 150 questions, 100 questions, and something like 400. So I could find that out, but it's typically a 70%. I know that's what it was for lead. So, okay. So you need to go ahead and get your NCIDQ account. So one of the things that you do need to understand is that every year you do need to keep your certification up. It's $75. It's mine is in March. I don't know if that's typical, but I do go ahead every March and send them $75, and that way my name stays on the website. You can opt out of that being on the website, but I'm not sure why you would. It's a good way to get people to know that you've taken the test. All right. So why does this all matter? We've talked about this a little while ago. Obviously, this professionalism version. Many large firms, even small firms, require it now. The government requires it. If you are working for the government, they require it now. I think there's a certain amount of prestige involved. It shows to our allied professions that we've been willing to invest in ourselves. And it's very portable. So you can take it wherever you want, including Canada. Forgive me. Get through the entire webinar without a cough, and that's not working, obviously. So the portability is important. In Kentucky, I'll review that in a minute, what we have here. Ohio is going through that process. I was involved in Illinois legislation many years ago in New York, and both of them have Title Acts. The Title Act is also here in Kentucky. Sorry. So what is in Kentucky? Do you have to register with the state after you pass the NCIDQ? No. Would we like it if you did? Yes. The more people we have registered in the state, the sooner we can get to the next step in our lives is which is practice. There are two titles. There's a title and practice exams or practice umbrellas. Engineers and architects have a practice act in place, which means you have to have that license to practice. Kentucky, along with many, many other states, has a Title Act, which is the first step to the Practice Act. Anyway, you can see here, as I cough my way through this, CID means that you have passed the NCIDQ. There is a renewal date every year. It's $200. And Kentucky went ahead to mimic the architects, and that is require professional development units, 8 of them having to be to the health, safety, and welfare subject activities. That is one of the reasons why IIDA continues to bring to you webinars and CEUs all the time, so we can get those professional development units. So if you have any questions about that, please feel free to ask as well. ASD, IIDA, and IDC all require the NCIDQ to be part of your membership at certain points to get that professional membership. Certainly they have a associate or assistant type of position as well. That's the bridge between the professional and the student membership. So all of these are requiring that as a professional membership to take the NCIDQ. If you have any other questions, you certainly can ask the CIDQ staff, and contact information that is listed right here. Tom Banks was here recently, And he spoke to the University of Kentucky students, and I know he was in Louisville and spoke to a number of people as well. He's been a great person in getting this moving forward, and all of the people there as well are really very helpful. So if you have any questions, please go ahead and type them in. I'll try to answer them, or if you don't want to put it on to the GoToMeeting, you certainly can go ahead and send it to me at cbi233@uky.edu. If I don't have the answer right away, I will get it to you. I'll do some research for you. I want to open up this at this time to ask you as well, if you have any questions, go ahead and type those in. It is my understanding that, hey, I'm sorry I missed this, but we'll be sending this out. I believe this will be this recorded webinar will be set up on the IIDA Louisville Lex page. I'm sorry, okay. Once you get your certification, what exactly do you have to do to keep it up? You need to go ahead and pay $75 a year to NCIDQ to keep your certification. That's it. There's actually no professional development units or CEUs that you need to keep up with your NCIDQ. Once you've got it, you've got it. Will you be required to memorize things like occupancy, classification? I don't know why that doesn't stay up longer. No, because, again, that will wind up being something that is part of the NCIDQ codes, and they'll give you that information. So, any other questions? I believe there's going to be some study sessions being organized. Tips and tricks. So, okay. Okay, it's been a little while since I've taken it, but tips and tricks. Okay, so I'll give you my one tip. I took the test in October. I had taken it, I want to say it was 3 years after I had gone through college. And I did take, at that time, IBD, now it's IIDA. They had done a study session. And I basically spent from Labor Day to the day of the test, which was October, I think, 10th, studying every single night. I read. It will take some devoted time, and if you can't devote that time, I wouldn't try to set up for the exam yet. No. I just saw a quick question up there. It said something about, I've been working through for a dealer, and I don't think that person is direct supervisor that is qualified. I'm going to flip back through that new information that talks about the qualifications and the direct sponsorship. Qualified work experience. If your supervisor is not set up as a Q, then you will have to basically spend more time. And you also wind up having to go ahead and you're going to have to make sure you get a number of documents. If you don't take all the parts of the exam together, what is the max amount of time allowable? Oh, that's a good question. So there are 10 windows. When you take the FX, you have 4 windows. And that 4 window is basically, let me find my notes here. The 4 windows is basically 2 windows per year. There are 4 windows to get how many times? Well, too many questions. For some reason, this is not keeping my questions. I'm sorry. So if the upkeep is only $75, oh shoot, this thing does not stay up. I don't know why it will not. I'm sorry, that confused me. Okay, ask me the question again, and hopefully I'll catch it. It doesn't stay up on my side. I'm sorry. And,
if you go to chat, you can see all of them.
Ah, thank you.
So to chat, you can just scroll up.
Okay. So if the upkeep is this $75 yearly fee, what's the $200 Kentucky stuff? Jennifer and anybody else? The $200 is your title registration in the state of Kentucky. Every state has a different way of doing this. And you become certified, and you have to apply to the state for your, some people call it a license, CID certification. Hopefully I understood that sense. with the practice quizzes, once you pay, can you take them as many times as you want? No, the practice quizzes that go through Prometric is $55 each time. And there are two different ones, so I think you could go ahead and take them as many times as you want, but every time it's $55. Okay, if you don't take all parts of the exam together, what's the maximum amount of time allowable between each part of the test? If you don't take it all together, you have 10 windows total, but it starts with the window with the FX. So that's 4 windows, which is 2 years, and then you have to go ahead and take the rest of the exam, and then you have 10 windows, which is 5 years after that. I've worked as a furniture dealer doing design work. However, I don't think my boss is certified. Do I meet the requirements? Just depends on what you've got down as requirements, and that's that slide that I have up right now. Tips and tricks, I gave you that one. We were required to memorize things like occupancy classification charts or charts such as required plumbing fixtures, or those will be provided, and we'll answer questions that reference from those documents. I believe that is what's happening. I don't have that answer for you. The occupancy classification chart, no, you don't need to memorize that other than what you have been given in the NCIDQ codes. Charts like plumbing fixtures would be part of the exam, and so therefore the answers would be right there. And okay, so I think I got Jennifer's here. Okay, got that already, Brenna. Yes, I believe they're sending out the webinar. They're going to put it as a link. Okay, I think I got all these questions. What would be considered passive? Okay. Okay, great. Okay, is there any other questions? Nothing so far? Okay. Well, so here's the deal. You will survive. You will get through this, and you will be the professional you want to be. I wish you all the best. And as said, at the end of the slideshow, there are a number of links to the social media links for IIDA, and I do know that they are going to be working on trying to get that slide moving, getting those things set up. I believe there is a support group that's going to be in Lexington, and I suspect there will also be one in Louisville. I'm not sure about Western Kentucky, but I'm sure there's somebody out there that's really willing to do it. It does help if you study with other people. I think that's very useful because you basically can, chat about the answers. There is another, it's not connected with the Q, but I understand it's very good. It's called Q Practice, and it's a little expensive, but I think my understanding from Lisa, the woman that runs that thing, it's been very helpful. Many people have found it very useful. So if you can't connect with a group in your local area, that may be a way to do it. And if you don't have any other questions, I want to wish everyone a great week and a great holiday season. And I am so excited I'm on break. So, but I got lots of things to keep myself amused, and I'm sure you all do as well. You all take care, and enjoyed spending some time with you. And again, if you have any questions and you want to send it to me personally, that's my email right there. Again, thank you very much, and you guys have a great day.